The day Earth's battleship entered the Zenari system, the galaxy held its breath. The Galactic Union had long regarded humanity as irrelevant, a fringe species from the Sol system, barely acknowledged at the Interstellar Council table. To them, humans were expendable, decent mercenaries, passable laborers, competent traders, but never a real power, and certainly never a threat. That illusion shattered the moment the behemoth arrived. The ship was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. It lacked the sleek, aerodynamic elegance of elf warcraft. It bore none of the organic, flowing artistry that marked the Zith's bioengineered vessels. No, the behemoth was monstrous, brutalist in design. Jagged plating, reinforced hulls, and bristling weapon turrets gave it a hulking, violent silhouette. It radiated force, not finesse, and it did not arrive alone. Flanking it were two smaller destroyers, the Revenant and the Titan Fist, each more menacing than any battleship the Union had deployed. Their arrival wasn't a parade, it was an answer to Proxima Centaur. The Drath Collective, an insectoid dominion controlling half the known galaxy, had made a fatal misjudgment. They had annihilated a human colony, assuming Earth would fold like so many others had before them. They expected pleas, bargaining, surrender. What they got was the behemoth. Panic gripped the Union's diplomats. Urgent transmissions flew across sectors as they scrambled to comprehend what was coming. But the Drath? They laughed. To them, humanity was an irritant, nothing more. They rallied their armadas, confident they would crush whatever Earth dared to send. Then the behemoth opened fire. In a single salvo, the lead Drath battleship disintegrated. Centuries-old shields, tested through 100 wars, collapsed like wet parchment. The Union watched in mute horror as humanity unveiled the unthinkable. Technological superiority, plasma lances, melted hulls, kinetic rounds, each the size of a city bus, ripped effortlessly through enemy cruisers. Railguns accelerated slugs to relativistic speeds, shredding entire formations before they could react. The Drath screamed for reinforcements. They hurled hundreds of ships into the fray. It made no difference. Earth had been underestimated for generations. They had watched, studied, learned the galaxy's strengths and weaknesses. And when they struck, they didn't match the great powers. They obliterated them. The Galactic Union trembled. If humanity could decimate the Drath, what might they do to the rest? Then came the transmission. Broadcast across all Union systems, from every human vessel. Earth does not forget. Earth does not forgive. Stay out of our way. The silence that followed was deafening. The wreckage of the Drath fleet still floated, glowing embers drifting across the void. Shattered hulls cast long, twisted shadows against the stars. The battle had lasted less than an hour, but its echo would resound for centuries. In the Union's Grand Chamber, the highest council convened, the most powerful species in the known. Galaxy sat frozen, eyes fixed on the holographic replay of the behemoth's assault. Ambassador Jir of the Elvar, a tall, silver-skinned diplomat whose people had steered galactic politics for millennia, spoke first. "We miscalculated," he murmured, his voice tight with unease. "Humanity is not what we believed." Beside him, the insectoid Cathari delegate clicked its mandibles, visibly shaken. They destroyed an entire battle group. The Drath had nearly 100 ships, and the humans had 3, interrupted Grand Marshal Sorak of the Thales, his feline expression grim. They only needed 3. A hush fell. Humanity had never been considered a military power. Their fleets were thought obsolete, barely capable of defense. And now they stood atop the ruins of a once feared empire. But it wasn't just the scale of their victory that terrified the Council, it was how they fought. Where most advanced species relied solely on energy-based weaponry, humans had mastered both energy and kinetics. Their hyperdense slugs, fired at relativistic speeds, tore through shields no one thought could be breached. They didn't disable ships, they annihilated them. Nothing left but debris. "They made no demands," murmured the Zith representative, its jelly-like form trembling. "No reparations, no declaration." "No," Jir agreed quietly, "they came for vengeance." Just then another transmission arrived. The Union braced for a threat. What came instead was precise, cold. "We will not seek war with the Union. We will not expand beyond our borders, but touch another human world. And we will do to your fleets what we did to the Drath." The feed. The message was absolute. Earth wasn't claiming territory. They weren't building an empire. They weren't even asking for peace. They had made a point, and they had made it so brutally, so decisively, that every government in the galaxy now feared one question above all. What if humanity decided it wanted more? The Drath Collective was finished. Their homeworld, once a fortress swarming with life, now sat untouched. Not because Earth couldn't destroy it, because they chose not to. The survivors surrendered long before humanity reached them. Their rulers fled to the far corners of the galaxy. Their remaining ships refused combat. Some defected, offering themselves to foreign empires just to avoid Earth's wrath. But it wasn't the devastation that paralyzed the galaxy. It was the efficiency. Wars usually took decades. Systems traded hands in bloody stalemates, but humans ended an empire in hours. This wasn't war, it was an execution. Now, across every empire, council and fleet command, a chilling question echoed. What else are the humans hiding? Desperate to understand, the Union launched inquiries. Intelligence agencies combed through data, spies infiltrated, bribes were paid, diplomats begged, but humanity offered no answers. And that terrified them most of all. Because the behemoth and its escorts? They weren't Earth's full strength. They were just the tip of the blade. No one knew where the main fleet was, how many ships it contained, what weapons it carried. For the first time, the galaxy didn't fear invasion. It feared an empire that didn't want to conquer, an empire that only acted when provoked, and when it did, left no survivors. The Alvari Confederation, once one of humanity's loudest critics, quietly withdrew all forces near Sol space. The Kari, known for enslaving captured humans, abolished forced labor entirely. The Zith, proud of their so-called neutrality, refused to comment at all. Even the Union's ruling council, normally quick to issue sanctions, did nothing, because they knew. If Earth ever truly went to war, nothing could stop them. Silence spread across the stars. No one dared challenge the humans now. For the first time in galactic history, one force had become untouchable. The fiercest empires, once mockers of human ambition, now spoke in whispers of a single name, the Behemoth. Yet while the galaxy trembled, Earth did not idle. Far within the Sol system, behind Jupiter's shadow, a hidden orbital station held humanity's true military command. Inside, Earth's War Council convened. There was no panic, no fear, only calm. They had expected this. Admiral Jonathan Hayes, architect of humanity's modern war doctrine, leaned forward. His voice was calm but carried weight. "The Union is afraid," he said flatly. That was the point. Around him sat the minds behind Earth's rise. Strategists, generals, scientists. None smiled. No one toasted. Victory was acknowledged, not celebrated, because their true war hadn't started. A sharp-featured woman scanned a data slate. The Drath are collapsing, their economies in freefall. Factions are already picking apart the remains. Hayes nodded. Expected. The vultures always come. A young officer, cybernetic implant glowing beneath his dark skin, spoke next. "The Union hasn't retaliated, but we've intercepted simulations run by the Elvar and Zith. They're modeling war against Earth." Hayes smirked. The officer hesitated, then added, "None of their projections end in victory. Laughter rippled through the room, not amused but knowing. Soldiers' laughter. Hayes leaned back, fingers interlaced. Then we proceed as planned. Across from him the woman narrowed her eyes. You still think they'll test us? They always do, he replied. Fear fades. Eventually someone gets brave. They'll tell themselves the Drath were weak, that we can't fight a real war, that they can unite and beat us. His voice dropped. Cold. Final. When they try, we remind them why they should be afraid. Silence. There was no cruelty in the room, no arrogance, just certainty. The galaxy had made a mistake once. There wouldn't be a second time. In the days that followed, shockwaves rippled through every empire, council and warlord. One thought echoed across every star system. What have we done? For centuries, humanity had been dismissed. A species clinging to the edge of relevance. Useful, maybe. Dangerous. Never, until now. But fear alone wouldn't hold forever. Not with humans watching. Admiral Jonathan Hayes understood this better than anyone. Seated in the heart of Earth's covert black station, he stared at the intelligence streams flickering across his display. Dozens of reports scrolled in relentless succession. The Galactic Union was shaken. But shaken did not mean broken. It meant they were thinking. It meant they were regrouping. And inevitably, it meant they would act. The war with the Drath hadn't been a war. It had been an execution. But the next conflict, the one Hayes knew was coming, that one would be different. Sir. The voice cut through his thoughts. Commander Elise Carter stood at attention, her face tight with concern. We've observed a sharp uptick in fleet. Deployments near our borders. Hayes inhaled slowly. Which factions? The Alvari Confederation and the Zith Dominion. Both are reinforcing their defensive positions. We also intercepted a transmission shared across Union channels. She tapped her holopad, and a shaky recording appeared before them. High Chancellor Orland, the reptilian leader of one of the Union's most influential powers. His voice was even, but the tension behind it was unmistakable. The events at Proxima Centauri have revealed a terrible truth. Humanity commands weapons beyond anything we've accounted for. Their fleet, once dismissed as primitive, is capable of devastation on a scale we've never witnessed. We must not let fear divide us. We must unite. We must ensure such power is never unleashed upon the galaxy again. Hayes snorted. They're rallying against us. Carter gave a nod. It's only a matter of time before they act. They're afraid, Hayes said, but fear becomes desperation. They'll try to learn our secrets, infiltrate our systems, maybe even strike first. We're monitoring every vector, Carter assured him. No breaches yet. Hayes rose and stepped toward the wide viewport. Beyond the shielding, Jupiter's swirling storms churned endlessly. Black Station, hidden within the radiation belt, was invisible to all known sensors, a phantom fortress. The pulse of Earth's war machine. What about our own deployments? He asked. Carter hesitated. Fleet Command has the behemoth on standby at Titan Station, awaiting orders. She paused, then continued carefully. But with respect, sir, the Union won't stay on the defensive forever. They're building alliances. If they attack, they'll do it together. Hayes turned, expression unreadable. Then we make sure they don't attack. She narrowed her eyes. Are you proposing a first strike? No, Hayes said. Not yet, but we need to remind them why fear is the correct emotion. Why there's no victory in opposing us. He exhaled. We don't start wars, Carter. We end them before they begin. Her silence was answer enough. The weight of his words lingered between them, like the calm before a storm. The galaxy stood on the knife's edge. And that's exactly where Hayes wanted it. Begin deployment of Ghost Fleet Protocol, he ordered. Let's remind the galaxy, no matter how deep they hide, no matter how many alliances they form. He turned back to Jupiter's violent horizon. Humanity is always watching. This was the true beginning, not of a campaign, but of Earth's quiet, all-seeing war. The stars didn't belong to treaties or trade routes anymore. They belonged to the unseen. They belonged to fear. They belonged to humanity. In the heart of Black Station, deep behind Jupiter's veil, Earth's command center thrummed with activity. Analysts worked in synchronized silence. Data pulsed across interfaces. Fleet movements were tracked, analyzed, cross-referenced. Commander Carter approached Hayes again, datapad in hand. Union activities escalating. Surveillance has picked up mass fleet exercises near Alvari space. Hayes didn't blink. How many ships? At least 300. Mostly Alvari, but Zith warships are present too. They're training together. She nodded. Simulating. Large-scale conflicts. All scenarios revolve around countering the behemoth. Hayes exhaled slowly. Expected. Fear never lasted. Eventually, paranoia took hold. The Union understood it couldn't allow humanity to grow unchecked. They would look for cracks, develop countermeasures. And when they believed they were ready, they'd strike. Any signs of imminent movement? He asked. Carter shook her head. Not yet, but the Alvari and Zith haven't collaborated in centuries. Whatever they're planning, they mean it. Hayes turned toward the galactic projection hovering above the war table. Red blips marked the edges of friendly space, where Union fleets now hovered like sharks waiting to circle. They thought they still had time. Activate Ghost Fleet Protocol, Hayes ordered. No engagements, no conflict, just surveillance. I want to know everything before they make their move. Carter responded with a crisp nod. Stealth units will begin deployment. He continued, move the behemoth to the Kepler defense. No direct contact, but I want them to see it. Let them know it's waiting. You want them to hesitate, Carter said with a knowing smile. I want them to understand, Hayes corrected, before they even think of war. They need to feel the cost. He stepped forward. His voice dropped, quiet and final. Because when we strike, it won't be a war. His eyes locked with hers. It'll be an extinction. Across the stars, in the capital of the Alvari Confederation, High Chancellor Orland sat in silence. Holographic reports flickered before him. Each, one worse than the last. The behemoth had appeared near the border. It hadn't fired. It hadn't moved. It simply existed, and that was enough. Orland turned to his advisors. Tell me, he asked carefully, do we have anything capable of matching that ship? No one spoke. Finally, a senior admiral spoke, up hesitant. No, Chancellor, we don't. The chill Orland felt wasn't from the data, it was from what wasn't there. No matter how many ships they constructed, how many battle drills they ran, they were already at war. They just hadn't accepted it yet. And the humans had. The behemoth's arrival at the Kepler line sent shockwaves through Union space. Encrypted. Transmissions surged. Council chambers whispered in dread. Military strategists scrambled to decode the move. The warship hadn't breached their territory. It hadn't powered weapons. It merely waited. At the Alvari Council, Orland stood before, a holomap of the sector. The behemoth was a blinking icon, massive, ominous. An aide leaned in, voice low with fear. 3 fleets are on standby, but sir, we don't know what's inside that ship. We don't know the limits of their technology. That was the truth. Humanity had only shown what they wanted seen. The behemoth might be their greatest weapon, or just a distraction. What if their true strength lay hidden, deeper than any Union scan could reach? Orland turned again to his war council. Do we have anything, any strategy, that might counter it? A Zeth tactician responded, mandibles clattering nervously. We've run thousands of simulations. None end well. Every outcome ends in catastrophic failure. The silence that followed was suffocating. Orland's voice was barely above a whisper. This isn't the war I prepared for. He took a breath. We cannot be ruled by fear. Yes, the humans have power, but they do not own us. If they think fear will force us into surrender, they are mistaken. A general stepped forward. Then we strike? Orland paused. The question hovered in the air, deadly. Premature action might doom them, but inaction could be worse. No, he said at last, not yet, but we will prepare. All across the galaxy, preparations for war quietly accelerated. Meanwhile, aboard the Behemoth, Admiral Jonathan Hayes stood on the bridge. Before him, Union ships gathered on the edge of scanner range, tiny motes of light twitching with weapon signatures, insects, armed and buzzing, but hesitant. Good. Carter approached with a datapad. Union forces remain on alert. No signs of aggression. They're afraid, Hayes said. She nodded slowly, but fear won't last. No, Hayes agreed. That's why Ghost Fleet is already moving. Unseen by the Union, Earth's stealth ships infiltrated their systems, undetectable, silent, patient. Not to strike, not yet. To watch, to learn, to prepare. When the Union made their move, they wouldn't be facing the Behemoth. They wouldn't even be facing Earth's fleet. They'd be facing an enemy that had already been among them, an enemy that already knew everything. Hayes looked to Carter. Initiate Phase 2. She arched a brow. The Union still thinks they have a chance? A slow, cold smile crept across Hayes's face. Let's show them how wrong they are. They moved through the icy void of space, cold, silent, and unseen. Where light was a memory and silence reigned supreme, Ghost Fleet protocol had begun. No eyes in the Galactic Union caught a glimpse. No sensor raised an alarm. No warning blared. As humanity's hidden fleet slid like shadows through the black, they weren't here to strike, not yet. They were here to shape the battlefield, to win the war before the first shot. At Union Defense Command, aboard Xerxes Prime, High Chancellor Orland sat encircled by his top admirals and war strategists. A massive holomap hovered in the center of the war room, projecting known human fleet movements, or rather what they believed were human fleet movements. The Behemoth remains near the Kepler line, an Alvari tactician reported. Additional warships have been spotted within a Corsol space, but no signs of full-scale mobilization. A Zith admiral clicked his mandibles in frustration. That's exactly what worries me. We've seen no sign of a grand fleet, no evidence of more Behemoth-class warships. But what if they're hiding them? They must be. Orland cut in, voice cold as the deep void. No empire sends its greatest weapon forward without backup. The fact that we haven't seen the rest only confirms one thing. The room went still. Then a whisper broke the silence. Quiet, afraid. They're already here. The sentence struck like a blade, because it made sense. Too much sense. Humanity had revealed one sword, while hiding the rest. In the heart of Zith Dominion space, a Union refueling station drifted along a major trade route. Its defense systems were standard, enough to scare off pirates, not withstand military assault. It hadn't needed more. The Union was still technically at peace, or so they thought. Invisible, unmoving, and utterly silent, a human stealth ship watched from the darkness. Its hull was coated in prototype materials designed to absorb and nullify every known sensor frequency. It didn't advance. It didn't fire. It simply listened. Inside, Lieutenant Marcus Hall monitored intercepted transmissions. Data streamed across his screen, Union fleet orders, encrypted military channels, supply manifests. Every detail mattered. They weren't just collecting intelligence. They were rewriting the future. A soft chime echoed. Extraction complete, a tech officer confirmed. Hall turned. Send the package to Black Station. High Command needs targets. Encrypted and cloaked, the transmission vanished into the data flow of the galaxy, undetectable. In hours, Earth's military planners would have the exact coordinates of every major fuel depot, fleet rally point, and strategic weak link. When the Union fired their first shot, they'd already be bleeding out. Aboard the Behemoth, Admiral. Jonathan Hayes reviewed the intel feed from Ghost Fleet. Every officer on his bridge knew what came next. They didn't need orders to feel the shift. "It's time," Hayes said calmly. Commander Carter nodded, transmitting a message across all Union military channels, untraceable, undetectable, except by the ones who needed to see it. "We are already inside your walls." And with that, the war began. Panic exploded across the Union. The message had been short, 8 words, but they shattered the illusion of safety. No known origin, no record of its entry. It had simply appeared, as though Earth had whispered into the minds of their enemies. High Chancellor Orland stood frozen in his private chamber, the message repeating over and over on his display. His claws twitched. "What does it mean?" he growled. An intelligence officer, his Ilari skin pale with fear, swallowed hard. "It means, Chancellor, they're already here." A chill rippled through Orland's body. How? How did they get past our defenses?" The officer shook his head, almost ashamed. "We don't know. No ships crossed our borders. No systems show intrusion. And yet..." The message said everything. The humans hadn't attacked. They hadn't negotiated. They weren't asking for terms. They were waiting. Psychological warfare at its purest. And the worst part? It was working. On the Behemoth's bridge, Admiral Hayes stared at the real-time data feeds flowing in from Ghost Fleet. Every supply line, every rally point, every blind spot, catalogued, mapped, stored. They knew everything. Carter approached. "Union fleets are reacting, repositioning, but it's chaos. They're panicking, not planning." "Good," Hayes said softly. "Let them fear the dark." "But fear only buys us time," she warned. "Eventually they'll act." "They will," he agreed. Hayes studied the galactic projection. Union forces spread thin, fractured across sectors. They had no unified defense, no central anchor. "They'll come to us first," he predicted. "Frightened powers never lead with war. They probe, they test. They send spies or token fleets to see how we respond." Carter frowned. "They'll poke the bear?" "They think we're just a bear," Hayes said with a smirk. "But we're a sleeping giant. They'll try to injure us, lightly, test the waters." Her gaze sharpened. "And when they do..." "When they do," Hayes said, voice turning to iron, "we won't respond. We'll end them. Before they even understand what's happening." He turned back to the display. "But first, we let them believe they're in control. Let them breathe. Let them make strategic decisions." Carter exhaled. "We're playing the long game," Hayes nodded slowly. "And when the time comes," his eyes, cold and glinting, narrowed on the Union fleets, "we take everything." The Galactic Union was tearing at the seams. Weeks had passed since Earth's chilling broadcast, "We are already inside your walls." And nothing had been the same. Paranoia gripped the once proud alliance. No one trusted anyone. No infiltrators had been captured. No systems breached. No sabotage confirmed. But none of that mattered, because every single leader believed it had happened. The Zith purged hundreds. Loyal operatives mistakenly executed as human spies. The Alvari shut down their own trade routes, strangling commerce in a misguided attempt at control. The Union was collapsing from the inside. Admiral Hayes observed it all from the Behemoth, silent, calculating. Inside the Alvari High Council chamber, Chancellor Orland faced his advisors. The room was dim, quiet. The mood, desperate. "The humans have made no demands," Orland said. "They haven't declared war. They haven't advanced." "They've done nothing," a general whispered. "Exactly," Orland replied. "And that's what terrifies us. If the humans had attacked, the Union could have retaliated. If they'd made demands, negotiations might begin. But they had done neither. They simply existed. And it was working. We must act." An Ilari. General urged. "We cannot cower forever." "Agreed," growled a Sith admiral. "We strike now before they strike us." "But where?" an intelligence officer countered. "We don't even know where to aim." "What if this is exactly what they want? A trap?" Orland stared at the table, eyes burning. He had led the Union through decades of galactic diplomacy, military campaigns, and crises, but never had he felt so powerless. "They've set no conditions," he muttered. "No ultimatums, no movement, just waiting." And that was what made it worse. They were winning by standing still. If they had invaded, he continued, "we could fight. If they had spoken, we could negotiate, but they've done neither." He clenched his fists. "We must take back control, force their hand." The Sith general leaned in, mandibles twitching. "You mean provoke them?" "I mean test them," Orland corrected, his voice steady but grim. "Send a fleet to the Kepler defense line, a show of force, not an attack, just enough to see how the humans respond." "And if they respond with the behemoth?" someone asked. Orland's expression darkened. "Then at least we'll know how they intend to play this war." Aboard the behemoth, deep in Sol's outer reaches, silence hung in the command chamber. Then Carter stepped forward. "They're coming." She placed a datapad on the table. The screen lit up with live updates, nearly 200 Union warships. "We're en route to the Kepler line." Admiral Hayes studied the report in silence. Then after a long moment he spoke. "They won't fire. Not yet. This is a test." Carter nodded. "They want to see if we'll blink." A slow smirk curved across Hayes's face. "Then let's show them what happens when you test humanity." He turned to his command staff. "Deploy Project Revenant. Let them see what they should truly fear." Carter's eyes widened slightly. "Are you sure? We've never revealed it." Hayes's voice remained calm, unshaken. "It's time. The Union believes the behemoth is our apex. Let's educate them." Hours later, at the Kepler defense line, the Union fleet emerged. Precise formations, weapons charged, but not aimed. A calculated demonstration. Then they saw it. A ship, vast and black as the void itself, drifted silently before them. It dwarfed even the behemoth, a terrifying behemoth of obsidian armor. Its hull absorbed all surrounding light, like a wound in reality. No records existed, no sensor logs, no diplomatic reports. It had never been mentioned, and now it stood before them, utterly silent. Then it spoke. "You are standing at the edge of your own destruction." The voice echoed across every frequency, cold, synthetic, without emotion. The Union's show of strength cracked under the weight of silence. Aboard the Eternal Vigilance, Admiral Vra of the Alvari Confederation felt sweat bead on his brow. He hovered over the comm panel, uncertain. He had fought in brutal wars. He had faced countless threats, but never had he felt this small. "Orders, Admiral?" One of his officers whispered. Vra's gaze locked on the ship. "A super weapon, a planet killer, something worse." They had feared the behemoth, and yet this eclipsed it utterly. And the humans had kept it hidden until now. "Open a channel," he ordered. The comm connected. "This is Admiral Vra of the Galactic Union. Identify yourself." For a long moment, nothing. Then, "Your name is irrelevant, your rank is meaningless, your fleet is insufficient." Vera's blood ran cold. This wasn't negotiation, it was a pronouncement, not for him alone, but for everyone in the Union. Retreat. Clawed at his instincts, but retreat meant admitting defeat, and defeat would fracture the Union beyond repair. "Hold position," he ordered, forcing steel into his voice. "We are not here for war." Another pause. Then the reply. "Then you should leave. No threat, no escalation. Just a statement, and yet it carried the gravity of a death sentence." Vra stared at his sensors. No life signs, no heat, no organic traces. The ship was unmanned, and that made it far, far worse. If this wasn't piloted, it was controlled remotely, or worse, autonomous. And it meant the humans hadn't even come in person. They had sent a ghost. He could stay, demand answers, test its defenses, but deep down he knew how that ended. Slowly he breathed out, "Withdraw." Gasps rippled through the command deck. No one spoke aloud. No one questioned him. They didn't want to stay either. The Union fleet turned, ships rotating in perfect silence. They retreated, without a shot fired. Aboard the unnamed warship, cloaked in light-absorbing armor, Admiral Hayes watched the Union vessels fade from the sensors. A faint smile tugged at his lips. Phase 1 is complete. They took the bait, Carter said, softly. They were never going to fight, Hayes replied, folding his arms. But now they know. He looked out at the stars. They know the behemoth wasn't our greatest weapon. Carter nodded. What now? Hayes smiled. Just slightly. Now we let them realize they've already lost. Back on Xerxes Prime, the War Council chamber was drenched in silence. High Chancellor Orland sat motionless, eyes fixed on the footage from Admiral Vra's fleet. The projection played on loop. The colossal, nameless ship. The voice. The retreat. They didn't even fire, a counselor whispered. They didn't need to, Orland said, exhaling. They're showing us the blade. Just enough for us to understand what happens if they decide to use it. The Union stood at a precipice. They could attempt diplomacy, but what leverage did they have? They could rally forces, but how do you prepare for a war you've already lost? Orland clenched his fists under the table. He would not kneel. He would not hand the galaxy to Earth. But somewhere deep in his bones, he felt the truth. The Union's fate no longer rested in their hands. For over 1,000 years, the Galactic Union had endured. Through war, economic collapse, rebellion, and invasion, it had bent, but never broken. Until now, humanity had done what no empire, no warlord, no coalition had ever achieved. They shattered the Union's will, without ever firing a second shot. Fear became a contagion. The proud Alvari withdrew from disputed space. The ruthless Zith halted their expansion. Trade collapsed. Diplomats scrambled to repair alliances already crumbling, and in the darkest corners of power, some whispered the unthinkable: submit to Earth before it's too late. Then came the final message, not sent through official channels, not delivered by ambassador. It simply appeared on every world. Every terminal, every military console, every leader's desk. The war was over before it began. You just didn't know it. Earth does not seek conquest. We do not need war, but if you ever raise a hand against us again, there will be nothing left of you. There was no formal surrender, no treaty, no peace accord, but one by one the empires of the galaxy folded. War plans were shelved. Fleets recalled, borders stabilized, skirmishes ceased. The once mighty Galactic Union, the 1,000-year alliance of star-faring civilizations, became a fractured shadow, not ruled by Earth through force, but by certainty. The certainty that if the Union dared to rise again, it would not rise at all. As the final Union fleets retreated from contested space, Admiral Jonathan Hayes stood at the bridge of the behemoth. For once, he allowed himself a moment of quiet satisfaction. This was never about territory, never about conquest. It was about precedent. Humanity had been underestimated for far too long. That era was over. He turned to Carter. It's done. She nodded, exhaling the breath she didn't realize she'd held. What now? Hayes smiled, faintly. Now we watch and we wait, because someone somewhere would forget what happened today, and when they did, Earth would be there to remind them.